The Muslims came out of Arabia and invaded and conquered a large part of the Christian world. The Middle East, North Africa, all parts of Christendom then, and then into Europe, southern Italy, Spain, Portugal, a bit of France. But Europe reacted, drove them back. Second attempt, the Ottomans. They conquered Anatolia, which was then a Christian land, Constantinople, which was then a Christian city, invaded the Balkan Peninsula, conquered all of it, and advanced twice as far as Vienna, and again they were driven back. But then, like the Arabs in North Africa, they retained part of their conquests, but lost most of Europe. Many people in the Muslim world see this as, shall we say, third time lucky. The third, and as they hope, the final attempt by the Muslims to bring their holy war into the land of the unbelievers, and after two partly but not finally successful attempts to complete the job. And in that context, we see what is happening in Europe as an essential phase of that. Through the double factors of demography and migration, certainly the progress of Islam in Europe, helped by the willingness of so many Europeans to submit, is making impressive progress.
What you wrote in 1990, a watershed article called "The Roots of Muslim Rage." Now, it was just 36 months before the first World Trade Center attack, and the question of the roots of Muslim rage, how do we understand it today? Is it modernity? Is it Christianity? Is it Christendom, as it were? And how should the West respond to that rage?
I think one thing is important to point out, that in the Muslim world, particularly in the Arab world, they have a very strong sense of history, a very strong awareness of history, without parallel in the modern West. Probably you're better situated here. In America, the ignorance of history is quite appalling. If you say that's history, you mean it's finished, over and done with, and of no current importance. And from time to time, as I say, one is appalled at the level of ignorance even among university students. Now, in the Muslim world generally, they have a very strong sense of history. That doesn't mean to say that their history is necessarily very accurate. That's not the point. But there is this strong awareness. For example, during the 8-year war that was fought between Iraq and Iran, two Muslim countries, both carried on extensive propaganda addressed to their own people and to the enemy populations. And the propaganda from both sides was full of historical allusions. And I mean allusions. They didn't tell stories from history. They would mention a name, a date, a place from 14 centuries ago, in the certain awareness that these references would be picked up and understood. Now, I can't imagine that happening in Europe at the present time. It does happen there. This sense of awareness is very important, and I think it's very much in evidence of the present time. They talk of the first attempt when they made progress and were driven back. They talk of the second attempt when they made progress and were driven back, and now the third. Well, what's the difference now? Each time they were driven back by some new European force. The Byzantines, the European empires. In the modern period, they confronted two rival powers in the world of the unbelievers, which means the world of non-Islam. Osama bin Laden puts it very clearly and very eloquently in his writings that this struggle has been going on for more than 13 centuries. The Islamic world was ruled by successive dynasties of caliphs from successive capitals: Medina, Damascus, Baghdad, Cairo, Istanbul. The world of the unbelievers was ruled by successive emperors or equivalent from various capitals. In the final phase, he says, the world of the unbelievers was divided, disputed between two rival superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. In Afghanistan, he says, we, meaning the Muslims, we defeated and destroyed the more deadly and the more dangerous of the two. Dealing with the Americans will be comparatively simple and comparatively easy. This is the perception which I think motivates the jihadists of the present time. The feeling that this is the final phase of the millennial struggle. They have defeated one of the final two superpowers. They are driving back the other. They are taking over Europe, and the next step is to take over the rest of the world. This outlook is very clearly expressed, and it is linked with the millennial apocalyptic view which I mentioned earlier.